won't go near. Morning. Well, plans thwarted already. So I got up here about 20 minutes ago and I was like, right, before I start any of this business, I'm just going to get some mowing done because, you know, when I left last week, the grass has got so long. Mum did a little bit of strimming around the edges yesterday, I think it was. But I've just got the push mower out and I've done about 15 minutes at the top and it's just too much. I've given up. The grass is like this long and soaking wet and it's just like churning through. Yeah, basically it's difficult. So I've done like the top sections, but let me show you the state of the poor little push mower. This grass is so lush and just masses and masses of it. And I'm sinking into it. Look, and the poor mower, look at the state of that. Oh, poor little love. Bit too much of a job that was, wasn't it? I mean, I got some of it done, but this is just can't get through it. Just can't get through it. See, look, as I'm mowing, just like masses of it's coming up. These huge sort of piles of wet grass. Yeah, it is definitely a job for the strimmer, this. And Mum is weeding the spring onions. You remember the Holland Blood Red and Lilia that I got in here? Well, they're now full of weeds. But the spring onions themselves have come up pretty good. There they go. Looking nice. Actually, there's just so much weeding to do at the moment. Not only is the grass grown, the weeds have too. Right, strimmer in action. Let's go. Mum is on raking duties, which is pretty handy because I'm making a lot of mess. What I'm chewing up with this strimmer. And look, we found a cosmos and I managed not to strim it. So I'm very pleased. Okay, well that is, it's not a beautiful mow, but it's enough. It's a start anyway, it is a start. But while I've got the Enviromesh box off the carrot and coriander bed, I'm gonna just see what we've got in way of carrots. I know last time I looked in there we had a load of not carrot root fly, it was like aphids on the actual base of the leaf. So I'm sure it's going to be a horrible sticky mess under there, but let's have a look. And I'm also going to pick some sorrel because we're going to whiz home and have some soup in a minute. Okay, that's the next thing. Let me get a trowel. This is a mixture of Touchon, which is an orange carrot, and Jaune Obtuse, which is a yellow one. And we had really quite good germination on this lot, but I didn't do a lot of thinning. So I'm going to be pulling out some little tiny ones in this lot this time and see if we... But that is a Jaune Obtuse, beautiful yellow carrots. And so last year we sowed some carrots about this sort of time, and they grew all over winter and we picked them in spring, which was pretty amazing. But we had such a mild winter last winter. And by all accounts, like the prediction this year is we're going to have a pretty cold one. So I just don't think it's worth doing. I might sow some in the polytunnel rather than in this carrot box. And we'll see how we go with that. But I am not unhappy with that haul. Pretty good. I mean, they're not prize-winning carrots, I'll give you that. They are not huge, not like we had year before last. They were just enormous. But then we don't have a great deal of soil depth in this little box, so yeah, I think they've done all right. Particularly seems they survived the drought, which I didn't think they were going to do. They looked a little shriveled. So yeah, tick, lovely. And then sorrel. So I said earlier I was picking the sorrel because we were making a soup. I've read so many recipes on ways to make sorrel soup, and I've just found that by far the best way is just make a vegetable soup. So like we've got an old, we had roast chicken the other day, so we've got a chicken carcass. So I've just made some chicken stock based soup with onions. The carrots will go in and some celery, not ours unfortunately, the celery is a complete fail. And then the sorrel, I'll just wash it and really finely slice it and then throw it in right at the very end, just before you're about to eat the soup, because otherwise I find the flavour just disappears and you don't get anything from it. Whereas if you throw it in right at the very end, you get this really strong lemony burst, you know, like that proper sorrel flavour. But it hasn't been in the soup long enough to make the whole soup lemony, so you get like these little bursts of lemon and it's absolutely delicious. But I'm going to pick some of this for the girlies too. They don't get it very often, but it is their absolute favourite and they've been watching me pick it, so I can't not give them some. Come on then, these are the girlies ones. These are for you, whirlers. Come on. Actually, girls, we're going to put you away now. Come on, I'll put them inside. Come on. Come on. Let's take that bit and we'll go inside. Come on. Come on. There's some couple of quite big ones in there.
Put the string away. Do we need to charge the battery?
Hang on, I'll just try straight in on the top here. So if we roll this back this way. One really beautiful one. Should I take a big one or should we take some smalls?
How big is it? Take the big ones out, I think. Oh, that's a good size one, isn't it? That's beautiful. Beauty. They're quite small up mine.
Yeah, that was definitely the biggest. There's another really decent size one.
Or you think you might be able to. These are the white ones.
Oh.
Time?
Look at this, a big old lump of club root on the end of this turnip, because turnips are in the brassica family. It's weird that the other one's absolutely fine. This one's just got this huge growth on the end. It's not going to have affected the turnip, I don't think. It'll be absolutely fine, so just snap it off and remember not to put it in the compost bin. Not a bad haul for the day. I know turnips do divide opinion, but I absolutely love them. Oh, poor mower. It's so grassy, I'm not even going to put it away. Yeah. Right. We're off home. This is a bit of consolidating because the bed that we're going to end up covered with, we're not going to get covered with the bed. The bed that's going to end up with the cover on it is what I'm trying to say. Where I put the kohlrabi is in a spot where I had some landcress growing last spring, or like it grew into kind of midsummer, and it's self-seeded. I was hoping some of it's going to come up, and it has, or what looks like it. I've just tasted a bit and it is really, really tasty, but it's kind of spread all over the place. So what I'm going to do is hoik it out of the ground around the kohlrabi and just kind of plant it in a row, just because this is what it looks like at the moment. So yeah, it's all looking a bit chaotic in here. Please, first thing, ignore the glaringly obvious broad bean that's just growing out the middle of that. I'll deal with that. These are the kohlrabi coming along very nicely. There is just all bits and pieces self-seeded in here, but this is the landcress that's fantastic, and that's what I want to kind of move around and rescue so it looks a bit more like it's meant to be doing something, as opposed to this bean. So this is leaf chicory that has self-seeded. I'm going to get rid of all of that because I've got plenty of it. There's also this, which is a turnip top, which is exactly the same as all the ones that I've got growing over there. So as you can see, I don't need to save it. I'm going to dig them out, particularly the ones that are around the kohlrabi, kind of flooding that, and I'm just going to move them onto the edge so it will look a bit more intentional. this sun is really difficult. As soon as it goes in, the temperature gets really, really chilly. So it's like, whoa. But there's still so much heat in it. It's, oh God, I'm absolutely dying. Oh, got some right static fluff going on from the hat, haven't I? Nice. Okay, well that is an improvement. At least it looks intentional. So this stuff will get to about this sort of height. It'll get quite tall and I'll be able to just chop it off as we go. That's why I didn't want it to be around the kohlrabi, because it would just drown it out. Okay, 2 more things I want to do today. I want to measure up for making the new door for the polytunnel. I am not going to do a proper wooden door. I probably will eventually. I mean, I said this last time, but that roll down door has worked so well. And it was just a bit slapdash to begin with, but I have got leftover Velcro and leftover ribbon and leftover plastic. So I've got at least another 2 doors worth of kit actually in that shed. So what I was going to do was just make a new one up here, but because everything's so damp, and also now because I've just been hacking away at the grass, so over the last couple of days it's now just it's like I've been chewing it basically. It's just mush everywhere. What I'm going to do is measure it up and then take all the stuff home and make it on the dining room table so that I can make sure I get the edges straight, and then bring it back up here and attach it. That's my plan. Also, lunch. We have got, you know, that chimney wrapper. So it was a bit of an experiment because it was the self-seeded one and I didn't know whether it was going to come true. But let me show you what it looks like, because it's looking really, really good. After the pigeons finally left it alone, it's looking snaz. Welcome to the chimney wrapper forest. So this is all that self-seeded stuff from last year's and it's looking brilliant. No florets yet, but it's forming some really nice thick but tender stalks. So perfect. I'm going to take a load of this home with me for lunch. I was just about to say none of it's gone to seed yet, but obviously there's always going to be one. I'll just whip that out. But yeah, the rest of it seems to be growing on really nicely, so I'm really pleased. This is going to be our first like proper picking from it, so that is exciting. It was last year we last had chimney wrapper. And at the other end I've cleared space for the fennel between the chimney wrapper and the beetroot and the lamb's lettuce. So it's door first. And then picking some of that. I'm not going to pick it now because it wilts really quick, particularly in this weird weather where now I've got too many layers on. Obviously I had the coat, the hat, I've got this thing, I am sweltering. Right, tape measure. Classic piece of allotment kit, this tape measure that we've got in here. Broken, but not broken enough to get rid of, so it's persevering. We've got one of those like little bag clips on the end because the tape measure itself is broken just at the end, and when it goes inside the casing you can't get it out again. So yes, it still does the job. There's no point replacing it if it's still working. Right. Mum, myself and the girlies are just sharing the most delicious apple I've eaten in a long time that fell off the tree on Ron's plot.
Say that again. I think I've been eyeing that apple up. It's just a surprise when I turned it round and half of it was eaten.
So that magnificent apple came off the tree to the right here, just behind the swing seat. But the tree to the left is a quince tree, and they are both on the edge of our allotment on Ron's patch. We're not nicking them. We have permission. We take Ron's quinces because he doesn't do anything with them. We take his quinces. We normally make Mombrello and then give him some Mombrello back, which we will do again this year. But last year I made like an apple strudel, but with the cooked down quinces and marzipan, and it was so delicious. We're going to do that again this year. And when I do it, I will definitely get the recipe on here because it was so delicious. But quince are a really strange fruit. They're not ever eaten just raw, you know, like you would off a tree, because they're horrific. But they smell amazing. They're so perfumed and they are just beautiful. They're kind of like pear apple sort of fruit, but yeah, just you would never eat them raw, but you do make a lot of good things out of them. They make excellent marmalade. Like I say, the Mombrello, which is like a hard paste that you eat with cheese. You can also make quite a few different alcohols with quinces, but I've never done that, believe it or not. And talking of recipes, I get asked all the time what we actually use the chimney wrapper for, and I've got to be honest, we only use it for one dish basically. I've tried it in other things, but it's quite a bitter, distinctive taste, and I found sometimes if you put it in other stuff, I just don't like it as much. Basically, it's orecchiette chimney wrapper, and orecchiette is like a round, indented pasta. It's the most simple thing going, and we eat it all the time. Basically, that's all we eat the chimney wrapper as, and it's fab. But seems this is the first picking of the year, we don't actually have any of the pasta that we want. And we used to always have the orecchiette, but a couple of years ago found one at Marks and Sparks. It's just a round pasta. It's not proper orecchiette, but we found it and then we actually preferred it to the classic one. So we are going to take this magnificent bunch of green and go via Marks and Sparks, pick up some pasta and have that for lunch. Look at this for a nice harvest basket. We have got apples, quince, peppers, tromboncino, chimney wrapper, there's rocket in there, a couple of eggs. Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, bye girls. Bye bye. Did you not like the rocket leaf? Or have you eaten that already? Is it already?
No, I think that's it there, isn't it?
Well, no, that's the sorrel. The rocket ones were quite small.
Constantly forgetting that we're using the side door now. We go this loop, we go up around the top of the allotment, back down to the side door every time. But one advantage that's happened coming along this sideway on our way out is that I've remembered is that we divided the comfrey and stuck a load of it out here. So Comfrey Feed is on my list of things to do, definitely. It's taken really well actually, they're really good looking plants. And something else that I've spotted up here, a potato. Lovely. We might dig that up as well actually, see what's under there. It's bound to be better than whatever we've got. Right, let's get to Marks and Sparks, get some pasta and lunch. Let's go find some pasta. I've lost Mum. I left her in the sales section and she's vanished.
Well, that's a good.
Okay, now lunch has been had, it's time to make a polytunnel door. That, I know that it's boring just have the same thing every time, but it's got such a distinctive flavour that I've tried putting it in things like stews, and it flavours the entire stew as chimichurri wrapper, and that's actually quite revolting. So doing it that way, you just get the perfect, it's just perfect basically, it's just perfect. And yes, it's probably a bit boring that we just have it the same way, but we find that it's worth growing all year round, or as much of it as we can, just to have that one dish repeatedly for lunch. We have that probably, when it's in season, we have that probably twice a week for lunch. It's magnificent. Anyway, polytunnel door. 77 centimetres wide by 2 metres long. I'm going to make it longer than it needs to be because I've got to attach it at the top, and also I need to have a big loop under where it's going to have the weight attached at the base. I said earlier that eventually I will make a wooden, you know, proper opening door, but this little Velcro sort of solution was so good, and it's been up, what, 2 years now, and this is the first time I'm replacing it, and I thought it wasn't going to last more than a couple of months. It keeps the heat in really, really well, and also it's just easy to open, and you don't have like a door that flaps open, you know, it doesn't get in your way, you just roll it straight up, straight down. Once I've got these edges folded over neatly and it's the right shape and size, I just take it up and stick it to the polytunnel, and we should be good to go for another, well, definitely another year at least. Okay, well, I've made the door, as you saw, but I've realised that I don't actually have enough of the polytunnel tape to finish it off, because if I replace this door now, what I've got, how I've got it attached is that bar across the top, but the door itself is stuck with the polytunnel tape across the top, which isn't too much of a problem. I would be able to do that. However, the broom handle that goes through the bottom, which is what attaches it like to the ground and adds the weight so that it doesn't just flap up in the air, needs to be stuck with the polytunnel tape, and I don't want to attach the door without like getting it all together so that it then gets wet and dirty, and then the polytunnel tape won't work so well. So I think what I'm going to have to do is abandon this as a project. I'm sorry if you can hear the wailing, they're doing mowing in the field next door. I'm going to have to abandon it and buy some more polytunnel tape and then have another go. Yeah, polytunnel fail. Something I can get done today though is make the Comfrey Tea. Comfrey tea is so easy to make, and I think everybody who's got an allotment should have a patch of comfrey because it's just brilliant, brilliant stuff. So you can use it in lots of different ways. The tea that I'm making today is like a liquid fertilizer, and I found a really good website. It's just the allotmentgarden.org, but they've got a really brilliant article on Comfrey tea and all the different uses for it, and they've done a lot of research into the actual, like the NPK makeup and the nutrients that are in it. And so I will put a link to that in the video description because it's worth a read. So even if you just grow comfrey to harvest and put into the compost bin itself, it adds so much to the compost. It's brilliant stuff. But what I'm making is the tea, which is essentially a liquid fertilizer, just like a Tomrite or a tomato feed or any of those kind of feeds. And it's so simple. You just cut the leaves up, you jam them in a bucket, and you cover them with water. The time it takes to be ready kind of depends on the weather. So if it's particularly warm, it could be maybe 2-3 weeks. If it's really, really chilly, maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5 weeks. But you'll know when it's ready because it absolutely reeks. But once it is good to go, you dilute it into your watering can the same as you would with Tomrite. I think it's about 1 to 100. I think that's normally sort of the general gist, but I don't measure it. I just give it a squirt. I make it in these little buckets because I just find it's easier to handle. But we used to have a very large, like 100-litre barrel that we would just jam it all in and then make it in one big batch. But you need so much comfrey growing for that to actually happen that I found doing it in little buckets and then letting the comfrey regrow between making it just sort of works better. All you need to do is cover the comfrey Jam it really, really good into the bucket so that it's kind of solid in there. Just cover it. And then I'm going to put the lid on. And that's about it. So just like force it under the water. Sometimes you put a brick on top of it just to make sure that it's completely submerged. But yeah, then you put the lid on and that is it, basically. And it works out quite nice timing wise doing it this way, because by the time the Comfrey is ready to make a new batch, I've normally got like a second batch which is ready to go, and then that takes what, 3 weeks or so. We kind of use it in succession. So this one is ready to go, and then this is the one that I've already got going. Stinks to high heaven. All I need to do is strain that, bottle it up, and start watering things with it. 3 eggies from the gorgeous girlies. Lovely. Right, it's time to head off. At least I achieved one thing today. Door not done, but we did make the Comfrey tea. So not a wasted day. Morning. I am very sad to finish this week's vlog on this note. This morning, Mum came up to the allotment and Ruby came running out of her house as per usual, and the other two didn't think much of that. Sometimes if they're laying an egg or something, they'll just sit around inside, so didn't think too much of it. But they didn't come out for a while, and so when Mum went in to shoo them out of their house, Flo was in there nestled up to Millie, and Millie isn't alive. Millie has died in the night, it looks like. She's just flopped forward, and she's still in there at the moment. And Flo is sort of nestled right up next to her. I've tried to kind of coax her out, but she's not having any of it. She's really tucked up close to her. We've had a chicken tragedy on here with you before when we lost the girls to the badger. Must be about 18 months ago now. It was a long time, and these 3 girls have been such fantastic chickens. And I said previously when I was doing the introduction to them in the Q&A, what was it, like 2-3 weeks ago, that you shouldn't have a favourite chicken, but mine was Millie, and unfortunately it's Millie that's gone. And it's such a strange thing because it's so different than when we had the badger attack, which was really, it was destructive. It was shocking, and we lost all the girls, and it was just awful. She's sitting on her little nesting patch, her place where she sat right at the end. She's in her spot, and she's just gone. I don't really know what else to say other than that. It's a really, really sad day up here. And it's interesting how the 2 girls have reacted. I mean, Rube is out just like nothing has happened. She's just pecking around, talking to herself in the mint. And Flo is really reluctant to leave the nesting box, and she's cuddled up right close to Millie. So we are going to bury her up in the wildflower patch next to the polytunnel. Completely coincidentally, somebody gave us some really gorgeous narcissus daffs the other day, and we are going to plant them in a circle on top of her. Now, I mean, I'm going to have to extract Flo from her side, which is going to be really sad. Obviously, I'm not going to film any of that. We are just going to deal with this on our own, and we'll bury her with the wildflowers. Yeah, and we'll just fold it straight back over. Okay, I will dig in that spot. she was just the most outgoing personality. She was just really friendly. Just basically a gorgeous, lovely chicken. And that's that. So we now have 2 girlies, not 3 girlies, which is pretty sad. I'm sorry to end the vlog on such a sad note. I know it's the cycle of life, and I know when you keep animals, this is part of what happens. You know, at the moment we've still got Annie going to the vet, Annie the cat going to the vet every morning at the moment for injections, and I know it's all part of it, but that was such a surprise. It was such a shock. Yesterday she was just running around as happy as Larry, which is great. I mean, that's the best way to go. She wasn't ill, she wasn't sick, she wasn't suffering. She's just gone, like in a flash, and that's a bit difficult. It's a bit difficult, really. And that's the end of this week's chaps. I am sorry to end on such a sad note. I don't really feel like doing much of a cheers, so I'm not going to do cheers this week. There's going to be an exception for this 1 week. Next week we'll be back to cheers, but yeah, I hope you've had a better Sunday than I have, and I'll see you next week. I'm going to do a bit of a collect all the footage I've got of the beautiful girl and fade out the video with some Millie. See you later, chaps. And this is Millie, or Camille, as the case may be. She's gorgeous. I mean, I don't like to have favourites, but yeah, girly. You see, all her little quills are coming back through now. She's getting your neck feathers back again, aren't you, sweetheart? Yeah, she's so beautiful. Beautiful chicken. Yeah, beautiful chicken. She's such a pretty girl.